I forgot I was wearing a branded sweater, so my bad. Hello and welcome back to the Girl Dharma podcast. I'm Christina, and today is actually a part two to last week's episode of my chat with my friend Day. Day is someone who I met through meditation teacher training back in 2021, 2020, one of those. Wow, that feels like a really long time ago. We have been for a good chunk of time just people who have kept a friendship through Instagram likes and commenting on each other's photos. But in the recent year, we have become a heck of a lot closer. I would say they're one of my closest friends. We chat on a maybe every other day basis. Sometimes we send each other videos and voice notes, and we send each other photos. Here's this chipmunk I saw on my walk, and here's look at how pretty the buildings, look at how pretty the clouds. Like, I love it. And it's really, really shaped the way that I have and show up for the community that I have now. So I'm grateful. Oh, you know what? They also, for a brief period of time, um, were a big help in a heart project of mine post meditation teacher training. They led with another friend of ours an enlightened reading program on my heart projects channel on Instagram called Wake Upism. And so they've always been someone who is supported supported the hustle, supported the arts, supported all of the endeavors, and I'm grateful. So I hope you like this episode. This is a part two from last week's conversation with my friend Tay. Enjoy.
My headphones are in.
Those are
Okay,
cool
cool.
looking headphones.
These are the monitor ones that I was talking about that are like
Oh,
so
okay,
that
okay. Oh, yep, they
um
definitely look like it. Like you should have a
right?
microphone link.
Yeah, I would love to be a drummer, you know what I mean?
Ooh, that would be so cool.
That was actually one of my things that I did last year. I was like, I'm gonna learn how to drum. And I got a whole bunch of small drums and played, but I don't know what I'm doing either.
Wow. I see, I always thought it'd be so cool to like really learn an instrument. And then
Mhm.
I didn't learn an instrument until I was in high school and I learned how to
Yeah.
play the tuba. So
Cool. That's fun.
not the vibe I was going for, but I was like,
Yeah, you're like not really the style, but like I did it.
okay, welcome to Girl Dharma Podcast. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I would love to. Thanks again for having me. My name is Leela Day. Most people call me Day. I'm an educator and art-focused somatic healer, if we're looking for these titles. I believe in tending the nervous system through a decolonized lens. So that means we do a lot of embodied care, we do a lot of art expression, we do a lot of somatic healing to be more connected not only to our own body and mind, and also through our places and the land and the people that are in our external world. And so I love hosting all those sorts of things. I love sharing all those sorts of things. And it's a lot of fun to encourage curiosity and exploration in oneself. And that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, we were talking about
Yeah, remind me what we were talking about. And also, if I answered the question, so I feel like I went on a tangent. I don't even know what I
no,
answered.
definitely. You mentioned that the first time you felt embarrassed, or the first time that you at least remember feeling embarrassed, was in
Mhm.
middle school, and that's so funny, and that must be some sort of like universal thing, because I too remember the first time being embarrassed was in middle school, and
Mhm.
I think that unlike you, where I wish I could have had that sense of like, this is who I am, take it or leave it, you know. I wish I could have had that because I too was the weird kid. Again, the first time I remember being embarrassed was in middle school. And I think for me, it drastically shaped how I wanted to be perceived. And by that, I mean, I didn't want to be perceived. Do not perceive me. Do not look in my
Yeah.
direction. Unless you think I'm really cool, then you can look at me.
It's very interesting that my experience when I was younger, I was like, perceive me, and now I'm like, I'd rather you not. I know that this is inevitable, but keep it to yourself is really how I feel about it. I'm like, you're gonna do this, you're gonna have an opinion, but I didn't really ask for it. This isn't for you. This is my art, and it's for me now. And I think that there is a level of reclaiming the art space for your own well-being that I had to experience in that process of maturing to this age. And I think it'll be interesting as I continue to make art throughout my life. Should I be privileged enough to live a long life, that I can look back at this time and be like, oh, they were doing this. So this is how they were seeing the art process, and having those different chapters as we've talked about, like that graph of like little me, middle school me, I get a little bit older, and now here I'm at this stage of my life, and this is how I think about creativity and art. And I wonder what that will be like in a couple of years, in a couple of months. And I do think that our monthly art projects have really kind of accelerated that to a certain extent. Like we can see how we're challenging ourselves, what's a new thing that we're incorporating, different mediums, working through challenging topics, like it really gives you a different perspective each month. It's pretty cool.
It's like when I was younger, I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a poet. I would write my little poems, and some of them I still like can remember bits of them off the top of my head. But I wrote poems in a way like everything has to rhyme and it's going to be this way. But I was like, I'm going to write the best poetry book one day.
Yeah.
And I thought with those specific poems, I do remember
Mm-hmm.
one of them being like, lying is cheating, stealing is wrong, stealing is bad. I don't know, something about something about the because I thought someone's gonna steal my poems that I've written on Yville. I put
You're
them
like,
as
plagiarism is a problem. You're taking
I was
my
like,
writing.
I hope they read the second poem and they're like, actually, I'm not going
Maybe
to
I
steal
shouldn't.
this. I'm not going to turn this in as my own work. Yeah. Um, yeah, that's so funny. But yeah, I think of like, and I've mentioned this so many times before, there's been so many parts of me that was like, I want to be creative in this way. I want to be a poet. I want to be a writer. One time I didn't know how to spell the word um, newspaper or writing. It was something like that. It was like something like that. I was like, does it have one T or two? And my mom's just like, you don't know how to spell the word, but you're going to be a writer. And
Oh,
I was like in third grade. So I was like, wow. And then I was like,
yeah.
there goes that, you know?
You're
And I
like,
don't
good
think it,
point. Maybe I should stop.
you know what? You're right. Dream crushed.
Oh no.
And I don't think they meant anything by it. I think it was just like one of those things that when you're not careful of what you're saying, you don't realize how people are what they're hearing, right? Because they're
Yeah.
hearing what you're saying exactly, but maybe in a way that you didn't mean for it to be perceived.
Hmm.
And so I was like, never mind, not gonna be a writer. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll be a writer, but I'll do it secretly so no one can complain if I spell things wrong. And so that was my thing all the time. It was like, I'm gonna be creative
Hmm.
secretly. And so even when I
Yeah.
started my YouTube channel, I was like, I'm gonna be a fake Emma Chamberlain, but I'm gonna do it secretly because somebody just liked my
Yeah.
video, you know?
Hmm.
So even like going back to creating and stuff, I had to learn to be okay with being seen. And then also being vulnerable, which for me is where those monthly art projects come in because I can talk to you and be like, this is the specific story behind it, and then we can see how that has developed in these like almost like code words through the poetry
Hmm.
created. But for me it's like I wonder if this is like too obvious. Are people going to know I'm talking about my prom experience, you know? So that's always been really interesting. I also do think that um, having people who see what you create and having them listen to the process and having people who continue to listen and view and especially when they reach out and they're like, oh, I really like this thing you did. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
me? It kind of personally gives me more confidence to be like, wow, I wish I would have done this all along. I wish I would have allowed myself to be
Yeah.
seen all along. But I spent so much of those weird middle school to even high school, even college, wanting to be mysterious because I think I was afraid of being embarrassed again. Like, oh, your pants are too colorful. Like, no, you're doing this.
Yeah.
This is too loud. This is too weird. So much so that I was like, I'm just gonna be mysterious. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be a poet, but secretly. I'm gonna be a
A
YouTuber, but
secret poet.
secretly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. For me, it's very interesting because I think we're both in the same place where you're like, oh, if you don't get it, just say you don't get it. You don't have to dislike it. You don't have to leave a
Yeah.
hate comment. Just say you don't get it. Like it wasn't for you, you know? Um,
Yeah.
so it is so like if we put our graphs on top of each other, they'd be so different. But I
Mm-hmm.
think they'd ultimately lead to like a very similar ending point where we're at now.
Yeah. And I think that the creative process is so unique to your being and to your experiences and to the things that people say that maybe you even internalize that weren't even about you. Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
that person's always making art and they're doing this or they're doing that. And you think like, well, is that what they're thinking about me and my art? Maybe I should just stop now. I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
get involved in that, right? Or any other thing that might stop the creative process outside of you and what that reflects like in you because your experience with making art is so malleable and can change over
Mm,
time in so many different ways. And so I always find it really interesting when you see stuff online where people are like, this is how you become an artist. And I'm like, said you literally like there's so
yeah.
many ways to be an artist, there's so many ways to be creative, and it doesn't even have to be like a tangible piece of art or a song or even a poem. It's like, how are you viewing life? Is it through a lens of like, this is an art, like the art of living, or is
Mm-hmm.
this just an experience rather that I just like check off of a to-do list? Is that what being creative is for me? Like,
Mm,
there's so many ways to get curious about what art is like and what creativity is for you. And so I really do encourage people to get curious about what that means for you and allow for that to change over time. Like
yeah.
we've been talking about how our creative style, our freedom, our pressure has changed in our relatively short life. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
so many things can change and morph into new things. So I don't know. I think at the base of it, it really is, for me, it is a devotional practice, but I do think it is about curiosity and allowing intimacy with yourself.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Wow. Yeah, I've learned that over time when I allow myself to show up creatively without judgment from myself even, that changes how I get to show up everywhere and
Hmm.
all the time, you know? Um, it's when I'm feeling like even showing up to like go to a coffee shop alone, right? I
Hmm.
think previously, like even last year, if I would have shown up to a coffee shop alone, I would have not taken out my little mini watercolors. Someone's going to stop and be like, well, that's not very good. You should stop. But no one's going to do
Yeah.
that. And if
No.
people are going to comment on your art similar to that, like, oh, you and your selfies, like no one has anything to say about things unless they're kind of like almost like that term shadow artist. Like people think, well, I could do that too and I probably could do it better, but I'm not going to. It's like because
Yeah,
you
but you
can't,
didn't.
because you're not. Yeah, you didn't do it.
You know what I mean? It drives me crazy when people do that. Like, well, that's easy. Okay, so then do it.
All the time. And
So then do it. What's stopping you? It's so easy.
I
You
made
know what I
so
mean?
many ops in my art history class because I no, and they hated me. They're like, this girl who always talks. This was the one time in my life I wasn't a shy person because I was the only one that
Hmm.
would raise my hand in class. They were like, oh, what was it, Motherwell? is that the right artist? Where
I'm
it
not
was
sure.
just so colorful. It's just like a very colorful, blocky background. And then it would look like there was like a splat of black paint on top of it. And I remember going, love it. And other people in my class were like, I could paint that, but I don't. And it's like, exactly.
Yeah.
You don't. You're not doing
That's
it.
the whole thing. We're
Oh,
not
that
critiquing your art, so thank you for proving the point. You know
exactly.
what
They'd be
I
like, that sold for $1 million. Yeah, anyone could do that. A 4-year-old could do it. Great. I think there's a lot of that, but I was, I guess, the opposite of you, where you're like, yeah, if you don't get it, you don't get it. At that age, I was very much like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm gonna walk away. Like, I wonder how differently like all people would learn to accept, not even just accepting, but loving the art of creating, right? The practice of being
mean?
creative, if they really did have a stage, as a child.
Yeah.
Like if they had somewhere to perform as a child, if they had a way of expression as a child, that was very, yeah, put on a show for us. Yeah, do this. How like they would show up through adulthood versus
Yeah.
having kids that are told, you're being too loud, you're being too annoying, you're bothering me as an adult, things like that.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to kind of think about, because I think hearing you talk about little Lola probably has a lot of people who would listen to this and say, wow, who would I be if I had the want or the space to do that?
Yeah, I think encouragement is huge. Huge. And I am very fortunate that that was definitely promoted in my life. And I do wonder, and that's not to say I didn't have ops, you know what I mean? Like there were clearly people who were like,
They hated the
okay.
selfies.
They didn't like the selfies. And I was like, what's your problem? You don't like good photos? Like, you know what I mean? Like to me, it was so unserious. Like,
Yeah.
and I think that's also another huge factor in my art and creative practices, but also just my viewpoint on life in general is like this is so seriously unserious. Like this is
Mm,
not really gonna inhibit a lot of things, right? Like I do believe that nothing is permanent. We've talked about this. There's a level of impermanence. And so if I can just show up and do it ugly, I showed up. And I did it ugly. Very strange when adults are in competition with children because, like, what's that about? Go get a hobby. Go. This is something that I used to say a lot as a kid and even as an adult. I'm like, you should find a hobby. You should find something that brings you joy.
yes.
Have
Yes.
fun. If you were having fun, you would not be worrying about my
Mm-hmm.
selfies or my video projects or the fact that I've made clothes. You know what I mean? Like you would be busy doing stuff that you like doing. So go focus on
Wow.
yourself. Let me
Yeah.
do my thing. Like that's that was really my vibe as a kid and now. I'm like, save it for someone who cares. I don't care about your opinion. It has nothing to do with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm like, okay, goodbye. Now. But
Yeah.
as a kid, I was like, wait a minute. What did they mean by that?
Yeah.
What about me and my whatever, me and my drawing, me and my painting, me and my,
Hmm.
and I guess sometimes it would seem like they were genuinely complimenting me. So it really, really confused me in my mind as a kid. I was like, well,
Yeah.
oh, we were big on, well, they're your aunt, well, they're your cousin, well, they're your, and
Yeah.
so, but they're your family. And so I was like,
Hmm.
well, mom's right. They would never do that to me.
Yeah, why would they say that?
So
Yeah, I get
yeah,
that.
that's really interesting, because now I'm gonna have to unblock them off Facebook and be like, hey, I heard you've been
I was
talking crap
thinking
all this
about this.
time. Hey, by the way, 20 years ago when you said this, what did you mean? Huh?
Yeah. Do you remember?
They're gonna be like, block me again. How are you practicing creativity nowadays?
Well, creativity nowadays, we have our monthly project.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really fun. I think that it gives me an outlet every at least once a week to sit down and be like, what do I want to create? How do I want to create it? I do also have like running projects that I maintain that aren't completed because a lot of the artwork that I like to make is about documentation and slowly building up something. So I have currently 3 projects that are separate that I slowly make time for. And it's not like I need to get to it in a certain time frame. I'm not like this needs to be done by tomorrow, because ultimately I'm usually not posting these things. They're just stuff that I wanted to make, you know? So it's really about just dedicating a practice towards creating something. And it usually is about something that I've been thinking about, right? It's like, oh, I'm noticing this pattern, this feeling has come up a lot, or whenever I'm in this one circumstance, I experience this. And so as I have mentioned throughout our chat today, it's like this is the creation part of it is more so of a healing expression. So, as like cliche as it sounds, I really am just like, you have to dedicate some time to this. If you want this to process, if you want to experience whatever it is that you're feeling or thinking about, like you have to sit down or stand and walk or whatever that makes you do that. And there isn't a pressure of like it needs to be done again by a certain time. It's just more so like make the time for it. And then I do it. I don't know how else to explain that. I don't know if that answered it.
Yeah, I love that. You said something, I wrote it down too. The creating part is more of a healing process. The creating part of it is more of a healing process. And I agree. I think whenever we talk about our art, and like that's only what we share. That's only what we choose to
Mm-hmm.
share, whether it's on YouTube or whether it's with each other, with other people that we have in our community. And we forget how much of it, like, I can explain all of this, but you really wouldn't feel what's happening, the inner work, you
Yeah.
know? And so it being a healing process, it being a healing process is like, yeah, like, but no one's going to understand the work like you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that as I had mentioned prior, like the confusion and the disorienting nature of the art that I like to make allows for a little bit of a distance. So even if I wanted to share these things at some point in my life, I don't think it would be very obvious. Like, oh, they were going through this or that. And that's not necessarily my intention because I don't make it with the intention of sharing it with other people. But I do think if at some point I was like, look at all this stuff that I made, like, I just want to put it out there. To me, I know exactly what it feels like, or what it looks like, or what it sounds like. And that's part of why I'm doing it, so that I can document that within myself. And if I want to go back and think about it, or um, kind of reframe what I was experiencing, then I have the opportunity to do so. Whereas if
Yeah.
I didn't create something, I probably would forget, or it would show up randomly on like a Tuesday, and I'm like, why am I crying? I don't, what's happening? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's I can still cry if I relook at it, or re-experience it, but um, it allows for me to have something to come back to if I want to.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think it's just so interesting to, for me personally, I've done projects where I'm like, whew, that was a little too much information. I think I shared a
Yeah.
little too much. And then someone else will watch it back, or I'll give somebody the, the backstory to it, just so you know where it's coming from, just so you're not like,
Hmm.
what is happening? And
Yeah.
then those people, those same people will be like, I would have never thought that. I would have interpreted it
Hmm.
this way. So the way we choose to process our feelings through art, it does already naturally, I think, give a lot of wiggle room for other people to see it and feel it's deeply personal, but to whatever
Hmm.
they're experiencing. Like art is
Yeah.
always deeply personal to whatever the viewer is experiencing.
Hmm.
And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, you definitely see that with our monthly projects. We literally have the same theme. And sometimes we're like, that was so different. We did not think about that in the same way. And other times we're pretty spot on. And I think that's the really cool part. And what I also love about our monthly art meetups is that we can share our perspective on it, where you don't often get to do that. with other people. So people will put their own meaning, and that's really cool, you know? I think it becomes a very intimate thing to say, this is the art that I made, this is what I was thinking, this is what I was feeling, and this is what I came to. And maybe not everyone needs to know that all the time. Like maybe that can be for you or your close, intimate friends, you know?
How do you balance being a creative person, being a creative as a whole, an artist, with real adult life, real adult responsibilities?
Well, being creative and being in a art mentality to me is part of one of the things you need to do as an adult. I think it's something that you need to do as a kid and also as an adult. I also believe that the art creating practice is one, healing, and two, gives me insight into my own well being, that it's a part of the daily ritual, it's a part of the daily practice. It's kind of a non-negotiable for me in my just mental health. So it has to be there. It is just as important to me as my meditation practice. It's just as important to me as eating foods that nourish my body. It is a part of my nervous system, like tending practice. So it has to be there. This is like, it's not something that I could just be like, oh, I can kind of push that off, because if I do, I know that my brain gets a little, you know what I mean? So I'm like, we need to we need to keep this rolling.
It's interesting because I still, in so many ways, and I think it could be because my art is so closely related to that inner child work that I do.
Mhm.
I don't see myself sometimes as a real adult with real adult
Mm,
responsibilities. I understand the privilege to say this is I would rather live in a tiny studio apartment, which I am, than to have a real job that takes away all the time I have for being creative. I think there
absolutely.
are people who can do both. You can be a creative and you can feel like, wow, I'm doing all the adult things. I work in an
Mhm.
office and I have this cubicle and you know I sit by the water cooler and I do this. I that's not something I can do. My parents always knew I wasn't going to be a doctor. They always knew I wasn't going to be a lawyer. And I don't mean that in the sense of they're like, I fail your children. No, but they knew none of their kids were going to do these things because like we would have shown interest in them. They would have been like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, that would be cool. But no, we were like, can I have some more construction paper? Can I get this? Like, I want to
Yeah.
paint this huge canvas. All of their children, and even my brother who is still growing up, um, very creative and like sure different interests here and there, but they always knew their children were going to grow up to do something creative. My older sister does or she did do cosmetology for a long time, hair, nails, all that kind of stuff. I really wanted to be a writer. I did this like online music review magazine for many years, and I was like, this is
Fun.
it. I made it. And then my younger sister, really wanted to be a traditional artist. And I mentioned this a few times here and there. She was really hard on herself because of it. Um,
Mm.
and that's never what I wanted. I want to have fun. I want to play around, and that's how I want to be as an adult. I don't want to be like, well, throw this one away. I messed up a little bit. I see a bit of separation that's slowly like lessening the gap the more I have stronger connections in community because I realize so many people are the exact same way. No one
Mhm.
wants to sit in an office job. We want to
No.
be out there doing creative things. And I'm going to bring this up. You said something so beautiful the other day
I don't remember what it
that
was, but I'll hear it.
I think I wrote it down somewhere too.
Oh, wait, was it the unemployment thing?
Yes, yes.
It was like the
The
responsibility for the unemployed friend to like make art and to see places and share experiences, something of that nature, I
That
believe it
was
was.
so
And I do
beautiful.
believe that. I do think in terms of like whatever adult is, I don't think I fit in that box in this
Yeah.
current life. Um, and I'm okay with that. I actually really prefer that because I did
Mm,
have an office life and that was torture. The first two
mm.
weeks, I was like, I can't do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
to figure out something else. And that job I quit. And I was like, I'm a photographer now. And I had been slowly building up a portfolio because at that point, photography was just like a fun thing that I did when I traveled, and I wanted to do it. And that was my career for a while. I did food photography and event photography, and I did concerts. I did portraits and parties and all these sorts of things. I did weddings. And I really just one day woke up and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm quitting. And the next day, I was like, well, we're making money off of this now. And I did. It wasn't the most money. I was like 21 and I was struggling, but I was also 21 and I was also like, this is fun. I'm getting paid to go to a bunch of concerts and eat a whole bunch of food after I photograph it. And I'm about this. Like, I was really about it.
Yeah, I've never heard somebody explain that the way you did in that. And it was just a voice note. It was just such a, like, it's not something you wrote out and you were like, wow, I really need to think of how I'm going to say this because my subscribers, because my followers,
Mhm.
because it was just something you said. And I was like, wait a minute, let me pause this. Let me rewind this a little bit. And I had to rewind it a few times because I'm like, wait, I'm a slow writer. And it was something along the lines of, yeah, you're right. Like, and the way you said it was just so like chef's kiss, you know? It was that something along the lines of how the job of the unemployed friend is just so important. It's just like job. We're getting jobs now. Because you're right. Like if there's someone's gonna have to romanticize life in order to create art from it,
Mhm.
like why not me? You know? Why not
Yeah.
you? Right? Like
Mhm.
we get that from children all the time. Children have nothing but time to play. They have nothing but time
Mhm.
to experience the world because they're experiencing for the first time. Us as adults, as 29-year-olds, as 30-year-olds, you know, we're experiencing life for the first time as well. I've never been 29 in October, you know, like this is all
Mhm.
new to me. And so we go through life and we forget how important it is to have people who can focus on that, who can
Yeah.
focus on the shifts and changes, and they put words to like thoughts we didn't know we had, feelings we didn't know we had. And so yeah, I love it when I listen to a voice note and I'm like, wait, hold on, let me grab my
Yeah.
notebook, let me write that down, because that was poetry without even
Mhm.
the intention of
And
it
I'll
being
be
that.
honest, the most busy I have ever been in my entire life has always been when I'm unemployed. Because I'm like thinking, I'm on one hand trying to fill the time to not stress, but on the other hand, really experiencing stuff that a lot of the times when we're working in a traditional 9 to 5, we're just so exhausted. We don't have the energy to think creatively, to question things, to be more curious because that's the point of the 9 to 5, be exhausted, make us the most amount of money. So, yeah, I do think it's a responsibility of the people who have the privilege to sit and experience things in a different way than what the majority of people do or have to inspire yourself and others. It's a part of being
Yeah,
in community.
yeah, you're right. It is such a big part of being in community because everyone's got their different perspectives on life.
Hmm.
And oftentimes it's hearing someone else's perspective about the same thing you're going through. Hey, I went through that a month ago. And you're like,
Hmm.
I thought I was alone here. You know, hearing
Yeah.
someone else's perspective on it, hearing someone else's words on it, it really helps us realize that we are all connected, like
Yeah.
so divinely intertwined with each other. I do have one last question, and it
Love it.
is very similar to everything we've already been talking about. What does
Mm.
art mean to you?
Mm. Okay. Art to me is the conscious effort to use your imagination, to be curious, to have a moment of play, and to allow yourself to be present. I
I
think
love
that's
it.
how I would describe art. Yeah.
And I don't think there is a person who would disagree with everything you just said. I think that was like the definition. Like you open the dictionary app on your phone. You're like, wait. I think that was beautiful.
Yeah.
How can people view and listen to and watch and support your art?
Absolutely. You can find everything that I do at daynightstudio.com. That is going to be the same handle across YouTube and Substack. Substack is the best way to be fully engaged in the art practices that I have that are either related to personal work, community work, to nervous system work, tending somatic healing, and that is Day Night Studio, DAE Night, NIGHT Studio, STUDIO.
Any little, I almost said any little dropping, but that sounds like I'm talking about boob. Anything you think people should really look out for that you are super excited to share?
Absolutely. I have been focusing the last few years on the nervous system, specifically decolonizing our nervous system. The role that art has in decolonizing our nervous system is something that I really tried to promote, in addition to somatic healing, in addition to community care, in addition to embodied care. And so I am offering decolonizing nervous system classes starting at the end of October. And in the beginning of 2026, we're going to expand that into cohorts. So classes that are week-long sessions so that we can do that not only to liberate ourselves, but to liberate all people.
I love it. I think it's gonna be so cool. I've
I'm
seen
so
a few of
excited.
your lives, like you've done a couple like TikTok lives where
Hmm.
you'll do nervous system or somatic work type stuff, and I always
Yeah.
think those are so interesting to tune into. But it's such a big part of what you share on your YouTube channel, and it's such a big
Hmm.
part of what is, I guess, threaded through all of your art you create.
For folks who are listening to this and you're like, what does that mean? The basic breakdown that, shifts and molds as our classes get bigger and we have more people involved and asking questions and getting curious. I do still try to keep this outline, which is an understanding of the science of our nervous system, of our bodies. I do believe that education is going to lead to our own liberation, and it's very empowering to know these things about yourself. So we always start off with that, and there is typically a breath work or somatic exercise, and also a accessible way to move our body so that we can get this information in a way that's more clear for us to understand, because our body is always sending us signals, and we have to understand the unique translation between our body and mind that in our colonized society currently have been separated, but they are one and the same and they work together. So that's the goal in all of what I do in all of these classes, is informing you in ways to get curious about yourself so that you can also do this on your own. You're not stuck only doing it with me, because we can't always do it together. We can do it with our friends and our family and our community. And that's how we truly get to a liberated world. And I love to share that with you.
Thank you for being on the Girl Dharma podcast. I think it's so special. I can't wait to listen to this episode again a million times. Yeah, I just love our conversations, and I'm so glad that everyone else could listen or watch and be a fly on the wall during these conversations, because this is very much what all of our monthly art chats are
Mm-hmm.
aligning to.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This was so much fun. And I'm so excited to hear it back later too.
It's gonna have 2 listens, 2 views, and it's gonna be us
It's
sending
gonna be
each other
us.
clips. Be
I've been
like,
listening
did
to
you
it
hear that
over and over
part?
again.
Did you hear that part? Did you see that part?
Like, I loved it when you said this. You know what I mean?
Loved it. Quotable. Yeah.
I think it's really great, and I'm so excited for you. And I'm so excited for this session as well. You know what I mean? But in
Yeah.
general, aside from our talk, I feel like this is such a really lovely thing that you're doing. It's very exciting to see you do this. You know what I mean?
I know. I love it. I'm having so much fun with it. I feel like it's incredibly healing. Um, because I started this when I was like grieving a lot, the loss of one of my friends who was someone who showed up so genuinely. And I was like, wait a minute, maybe I don't want to be mysterious anymore. Maybe I like want to be known. And I saw, yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe I should just pay for therapy or
You're like, or I could start a podcast.
You know, a little cheaper than therapy. I don't want any of it to get cut. That
Hey, do not come inside. I don't know you. A cat almost went into my apartment.
like a feral cat.
Yes. Literally, I'm glad. I guess, is it still recording? Yeah, it's totally got.